Now, you do not need to take notes on this slide or the next one, by the way. These two are just for your information. What can you do with a psychology degree? At each of these levels, to have psychologist in your title, you must have a PhD. I am a social psychologist, meaning I have a PhD, and a counseling psychologist has a PhD. But there are other titles like counselor or therapist with a master's degree. And you can work as an assistant in all these different fields with just a bachelor's degree. Clinical psychologists have PhDs. You might recall that clinical psychologists work with psychological disorders. There are also clinical nurses with master's degrees and assistants in a clinical office with bachelor degrees. There are many other areas of psych careers with positions in each of these levels. Here are some of them. Counseling. Remember, counseling psychologists work with normal problems such as marriage counseling, career counseling, and grief counseling. Educational psychologists work in schools to improve the delivery of education to students. Industrial organizational psychologists, also known as IO psychologists, may do personality testing of potential employees, work to improve employee morale, or in marketing do profiles of target groups, etc. A sports psychologist works to train athletes in mental preparation for performance. And a forensic psychologist may study criminal behavior and profiling and/or do trial consulting such as mock trials, witness preparation, and jury selection. You will be introduced to a number of areas of psychological study in this class. If you find that some particularly pique your interest over others, you may wish to consider taking a future upper-level class in that area. This week you learned about the history of psychology, how it evolved over the ages. Next week we will have biological psychology, looking at biological bases of behavior and neuropsych. Then the week after, sensation and perception, all falling under physiological psychology. Cognitive psychology explores learning, memory, intelligence, problem solving, motivation, emotion, etc. Social psychology explores how we think of and relate to others, group behavior, interpersonal relations, and so on. In personality psychology, we study personality testing or assessment, theories, and research. Developmental psychology is largely, but not all, child psych and includes cognitive development, moral development, development of personality skills and language, and even the psychology of death and dying. Counseling psychology includes a study of stress, coping, health, etc. And finally, abnormal psychology, also known as clinical psychology, of course, is a study of psychological disorders. I happen to specialize in special topics classes. The first three, in fact, I teach on this list. And like Harvard, ASU has a large number of really cool specialty classes, like Wacky Science, Your Brain on Drugs, Human Sexuality, and more. This concludes our class session on old white guys in psychology. Next week, our class is titled Worst Pickup Line Ever. you're brainy and have a great nervous system. In other words, we will be exploring biopsychology.